What's up, guys? Welcome to Physical Culture, the podcast. And today, this episode of Taking Inventory, I'm actually going to take you guys to my own personal inventory where we're going to go through the form that I have clients submit on the app, the Physical Culture app, when they do their follow ups with coaches. Now I send it to myself as well, and I fill it up. It's a fun way to like journal the process, how my week went, but it's also an opportunity for me to like keep myself accountable and to ever go back sometimes in the past if I'm like struggling or whatever. Like I can go back through old experience. You can basically document the whole process. So I've been dieting since my last show. I bulked for an extended period, and then I went up to 220. And then, honestly, guys, me at 220, if I just like skip a meal, I'll drop 2-3 pounds. So I kind of came back down by eating like 3,000 calories a day and just training really hard. I came back down to like 205 territories, 208. And then something just clicked. Like after a show, I get through a refractory period where it's like I don't care so much about body composition. I just want to train. I just want to feel strong and I just want to push the weight. And I think ultimately that's what bodybuilding is all about. Like what brings us to the sport is not as much our love of like food deprivation and being super shredded or even stepping on stage. Like it's a part of the process that I really enjoy personally, but I know a lot of bodybuilders don't really look forward to show day, but they just love the process. But ultimately, I think it's non-arguable. Anyone who's into bodybuilding got there because they fell in love with weight training. And I think the right way to get to the sport is to just be utterly obsessed with lifting weights. And I am. So as soon as I'm in a position where my body can actually do the damn thing and do it properly, then I like to just focus on that. Um, as a coach, do I recommend clients to like gain a lot of weight after a show and kind of not track and not keep tabs? Any good coach out there will say that you should stay in shape and you should like not necessarily regain a lot of fat, and there's a right way to do this. And I get the whole physiology about it, but I've been doing this a long time. And personally, one of the reasons why we don't recommend this for people, it's because of the psychological harm that it can cause, right? Losing your shape and or just not really liking the way you look and dealing with the repercussions of like being super shredded and then suddenly not being, and then the kind of the blues that comes post show. I get that, and that's why I would always try to make sure a client stays in good shape as much as I can, guide them through the process post show. But I don't really care. I just really wanted to get strong and I wanted to lift weight. And I really didn't mind not looking my best and not being in a position where I have a very competitive physique, as long as I knew that I was training really hard and I was fueling my body. Now, like I said, something just snaps. When I get close to like 205, 208, that's where I was sitting. I was sitting at 208 last week. And then when I say something snap, first week down to 205. And then the diet is real, the process is real, and I'm freaking living for it. Like, I love this period where you're just so focused on ticking the boxes and then just surviving one day at a time, just getting everything right, eating in a caloric deficit, getting the cardio, killing the workout, going through all your normal habits, but with like half of the energy you normally would, because obviously the fuel is not coming from the calories that I don't have access to anymore. And when that snaps, man, it's like the warrior mentality, the warrior within, and I'm just so freaking eager to go through this process. So I don't want to just like stop at like 200, which is like a pretty good physique for me. I actually want to take it to 190. And I figured because it's going to be a little journey for us to get there, we don't want to get there next week or next month. It's probably going to take 6 to 8 weeks. Then I figure, why don't I just take you guys with me? And here's my physical culture app. Maybe you can see. So, I have all the charts with the clients. They enter their weights and stuff, and I entering mine as well. You can see now there was a little drop, right? So now I'm gonna read my form, and we're gonna go through the points together. And I guess that could make for good content and also relatable topics for a lot of people that are perhaps going through the same journey or just bringing a different perspective for you guys. It could always be fun to see someone else being tortured by food deprivation. Am I gonna get canceled for saying that? I don't know. I meant it in the most healthy way possible. Okay, so first question. These are questions that I go through with clients as well. How was your training, compliance, and execution? Simple question, right? A lot to unpack though. So I said that I've been hitting my 5 days. And as a matter of fact, last week went through a little bit of a mental turmoil, like business and personal related stuff, nothing with like the process of bodybuilding. But I just didn't feel like training, and this was I like with a 5 day split is that for 2 days in a row, I knew that I was not going to get quality workouts because I was just not in the right headspace. So I decided not to train. Again, training for me is not a way to personally deal with my emotions or cope with all the things that happens in my day in a way for me to stay sane mentally. Like for me, that's not what training is. To work with my mental headspace, I focus a lot more on my personal development and my relationship with faith and my relationship with God and my spirituality and these are the ways that I'm going to like try to recenter myself and find myself in periods of trials and tribulations. Training is not a way for me to do it. I'm not saying it's not a right way for others. It's just not what I find the gym brings to me. For me, training is work. It's where I go to perform, to build the physique, the ultimate physique that I want, to become even more healthy, to create longevity in my body. So for me, training is literally like a part-time job on top of my business. So I don't go into the arena if I don't feel like I'm going to perform. And if I'm drained from mental stress and anxiety, then this is not the place where I want to be, especially because like with all my years of experience, the few times that I've gotten hurt was because I walked into the gym and I wasn't present and I was in the wrong headspace. It wasn't because I did something stupid. As a matter of fact, I've always been a very like conservative when it comes to training, but I've gotten hurt, and it's always because that day I shouldn't have trained. So, food for thought, guys. This is how I approach training. So I skipped 2 days, but guess what? There's 7 days in a week, so I ended up catching them back later in the week, and I ended up getting all my 5 workouts regardless. And they were good workouts, as a matter of fact. But I said, as I'm grinding this deficit, the high intensity is beating me up. And it's also 3 or 4 consecutive blocks in a row in intensity training. And it's definitely taking a toll on me. Okay. So intensity is basically training heavy. Okay. Rep ranges are low, loads are heavy. I freaking love training that way. Okay. It's probably my favorite way of training. But if I had to really tell if it's more hypertrophic or if it's like going to lead to better gains to train this way, I would actually argue that it's not necessarily a no, but personally, I found that I grow better in a volume block where the rep range are a little higher. The structure of the workouts are different. I could elaborate a whole podcast on like how I build programs, but ultimately, the way that I love training the most is not necessarily the way that is the best for me. Okay, this is another reason why like training is also has to be something you enjoy doing, right? Otherwise, you won't enjoy doing it. And in training and intensity, I'm still making gains. I might just be sacrificing a little bit, and it's also taking a toll on my body. So I'll do it for a few blocks. As a matter of fact, I did it for like 6 blocks in a row times like 5 to 7 weeks of block, we're looking at like over 6 months, that I've been almost a year that I've been in intensity. So looking at it that way, it was time to actually say goodbye to intensity workouts. I'm switching to volume as of next week. So that's going to be fun and it's going to be a whole different experience. But it's been hard to like keep up with my performance in my logbook. So I know it's time to just like when it's 1 or 2 exercise, whatever, maybe they're becoming stale or you're just in a plateau. But when it's like the program globally, then you know that the body is just like yo, it's time for a different stimulus. Um, so I'm planning to move on to volume as of next week, and the transition will do me wonders. I agree. Sticking to a 5 day block for sure, with emphasis on chest, delts, and biceps. These are my 3 weakest muscles. So we're on a specialization cycle where we're focusing on these 3 muscles. I am training every muscle, but chest, delts, and bicep have the greatest amount of volume spread throughout my week. Okay. Um, did you meet your cardio objectives? Okay, so no, there's still room to be more on the ball, but definitely one of the most compliant weeks so far. I managed to do some in the weekends, so it's solid right there. I'm actually going through a major detox when it comes to like tracking in general, not with weight training, because with weight training, honestly, it's not really demanding to track my weights, especially for how much it's going to provide in odds of succeeding. But in terms of like tracking cardio, tracking sleep, I wore the Oura ring for like 7 years straight, never missed a single beat. And I had it on me 24/7, even before they started tracking daily metrics. When they were just tracking night metrics, I was still never taking it off. And I had it for 7 years. I woke up every morning. First thing I did is look at my data and how was my sleep. And at some point, I just decided, dude, like, you know everything you need to do to have the best sleep. Like from the first year that I had it to now, I've like upped my quality of sleep within my realm of what I control. I upped it by like 50, 60%, right? So I know how to get really good sleep. I've hit scores in the top tier 90s, 80s of 85, 90s, 95s of readiness. But at some point, it's like, do I even know how it feels to just figure out by yourself if it was a good night versus a bad night? Like, it's just like tracking your food all the time. Some people will say, at some point, you got to explore being a little bit more intuitive and mindful when you eat. Well, same goes for your sleep, same goes for your cardio. I had my cardio, I always tracked calories, I always had my watch. I tracked calories, I tracked heart rate when I was doing cardio for years. And I decided to stop all that. I don't even wear my watch anymore. And now what I do is I just beat the cardio for a specific amount of time, 15, 20 minutes. And while I'm doing it, once in a while, just take my pulse. And if it's freaking beating so hard my fingers are coming off my throat, I'm probably in the right zone. Okay. I'm being dramatic, but yeah, when I touch myself and I feel my heart rate is high, I know I'm above 140, 140 and up. I know I'm in the right zone. I know quality of cardio is high, and I know that I'm getting my calories pretty much in the zone that I want. Now, am I gonna be like cold turkey forever and not track? Perhaps not. The thing is that I don't necessarily need to track right now. Like I'm in the off season, I'm chilling. Like there's no urgency, there's no um, deadline. So why bother myself with these things and why not experiment? Like, cause maybe I'll just get the same results without the mental load of having to track. Now, when prep comes, ETA 18 months from now, when prep starts, trust that I'll have to use all my tools because I need to be anal about these details. And then I'll have the mental bandwidth to do it because I'll have taken such a long break. So that's one of the reasons why I decided that I'm not gonna try for now. So cardio is going good. I'm very going mostly intuitively, and it's been fun. Was there any exercises causing issue? Yes. In my case, main compounds were starting to take a huge setback. I'm having a hard time keeping up with the performance. Like it's just every rep is beating me. It just feels so heavy. So I'm thinking a lot about the quote, performance equals fitness minus fatigue. So I'm experiencing it at first hand. Basically, your performance is your fitness, so how much you improve over time, but minus your fatigue. So if your fitness is high, awesome, your performance is high. If your fatigue is low, your performance is high. If your fitness is high, but your fatigue is high, then your performance is low. And that doesn't mean your fitness is low, it just means that your fatigue is high. Does that make sense? Well, in that case, the only metric that I can go based off is my performance. And right now, it's not great. So I don't think that I'm becoming weaker or that I am losing muscle. Obviously, I'm training so hard. So my only conclusion is that like there's so much accumulated fatigue from all these cumulative blocks, consequent blocks that have been falling one after each other, constantly hammering high intensity, that I feel like now it's time to just move on to something different. Let my body kind of just explore a different venue and recover from all those beatings. Um, was there any notable moments? Well, one thing I'm going to say though is that the deadlift is a movement that I have a love hate relationship with. It's probably the exercise I love the most to perform. It's also the exercise that has beaten me up the most in my life. All my injuries came from deadlift, like 80% of them, maybe one or two from squats. And it was never in a PR, it was always like freaking warming up and then getting hurt because it was just too much at the time. But lately, I have been so resilient in the deadlift. As a matter of fact, despite all the exercise taking a toll on me, this is probably the one that is actually doing no harm. Like I could keep going, but we're gonna move on to something else. I'll switch it for stiff leg deadlift on a high volume block because deadlifts are great, but they're really not appropriate for something that is more high rep. It's horrible and not worth it. But stiff leg deadlift, we're gonna do a great job. RDLs, that's gonna be awesome. Nutrition. How was your meal plan compliance? So not fantastic so far. Like I said, yeah, I'm eating like roughly 3,000 calories, but it was a bit all over the place. It was not very structured, and despite me having a plan, I was still allowing myself to be too flexible and not really focus on any goal specific in terms of body composition. Now, I made a decision to bring my calories a little bit lower than they need to because when I'm sitting at 22, 23, 2,400 calories, that's very little food for me. Like I said, I dropped 15 pounds eating 3,000 calories. So imagine what an additional 700 calorie deficit is going to do to me. But when I get in that situation, I get hungry. When I get hungry, I become focused. As a matter of fact, I think people need to change their perspective when it comes to like dealing with hunger during prep. I abandoned maybe a year ago trying to make my food high volume, like too much volume when I diet, like big salads, lots of like 0 calorie stuff, and lots of artificial stuff. Like we could argue about the health issues that comes with these things, the impact on your digestion, the impact on your gut, the impact on some of your receptors when it comes to insulin and things like that. Like I don't have enough evidence to make any opinion. That's not the reason that I decided to kind of let go on these things. Personally, it was more because all these things what they do, like if we're just talking about mindset, is that they're selling you on the dream that you're not dieting. It's like I want all those highly palatable food, but I also want to be losing weight. And to me, there's a paradox because when it comes to the gym, it's almost like people would go to the gym and be like, I want to build a ton of muscle, but I don't want to work hard. Like I don't want to feel pain. I don't want to feel burn. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I just want to feel fine. I just want to feel like a little tickle, but every time that it's uncomfortable, I want to stop, but then I want my muscle to get huge. So you see how this is kind of a big contrast when it comes to these two statements. But when it comes to dieting, people are like, I want to be shredded, but I don't want to be hungry. And that's where I draw the line, where I've been like that for a long time. And I decided, dude, like, hunger is the pump. Hunger is the validation that you're doing something right. Hunger is the guide, you know? Like if you feel like passing out, you're probably digging too deep. Or like you need to like get a grip on if it's at the beginning of the process, like headaches and things like that can happen. But if you're having a hard time driving or walking to your car, most of the time you might be digging too deep. But if you're sitting on the couch at night and you're like, oh, like I'm hungry. Like I could eat a whole burger right now. Well, that's awesome. That means you're gonna go straight to bed and probably burn a shit ton of fat during that time, right? Because now your body is gonna have to dig into your adipose tissue in order to restore the energy that it's just not having from you consuming calories. So in those moments, I'm just like, dude, if I'm feeling hungry throughout the day, I'm like, awesome. I'm doing something right. So I'm gonna start this movement where I'm gonna say, hunger is the pump. That might stick. Hunger is the pump. If you're hungry, you're doing something good. If you're getting a pump, you're doing something good, right? So I try to like reduce volume and just eat good food, whole food, and then when I'm done, just deal with the hunger. Like let it pass. I have enough reserve on me. I'm not gonna die tomorrow. So I can hang on in a deficit for a little longer. Another reason is because I like to have gaps where I'm not thinking about food. So, if you're always munching on something, like, yeah, okay, like you can fill yourself up, but then you probably also have to deal with the fact that like as you're eating something, then you're like looking forward to the next something you're gonna eat. So if you just decide like, okay, it's there, it's in the back of my head, but I'm moving on with my day, might benefit from it. Describe your general feeling on the plan when you respect it perfectly. Hungry, satiated, feeling great. I'm hungry, a bit irritable, but it's very manageable, honestly. It's just because it's been a while I haven't been feeling this way. But just a few days of telling myself, I ain't no bitch. And also, this is self imposed, right? It's my own decision. So I just gotta suck it up and just push through. My sleep has been a bit challenged due to the deficit. I didn't expect it to hit me so soon, but I'm having a bit of a hard time falling asleep. Is there anything you would like to change about your meal plan? My main objective is to eventually barely eat at night. Right now, I'm still struggling with not having at least one protein with yogurt, you know? Um, I think there's just no justification for me to be consuming a whole lot of calories at night. I train during the day and I work early and start at 8 and then I'm plowing client all the way till 8 p.m. But then after that, I'm just checked out. So I have my last big meal around 4 before my afternoon rush. And then after that, technically, I should be okay to just go home, maybe have an apple and pass out. We're not there yet, still adapting. So what I did is I gave myself a little bit of protein just because I don't want to be in a state where like it's really like keeping me up at night and I don't want to be in a position where I might just give in into like a treat or something. I just don't want to snap, you know? So what I'm doing is I'm being careful with that extra snack, but eventually if we could remove it, I could become so zen that I come home, go straight to bed, have a tea, pass out. That would be awesome. That's the goal, right? You never stop learning and wanting to improve. What are your nutrition's objective? Honestly, I would never want to hit more than 2,500 calories in a day for a little while. And then I want to be at least 80% of the week closer to 2,200. That would be awesome. Um, how's your sleep? Slightly affected by the deficit, like I mentioned. How are your stress level? Well, business stuff, it's disturbing me daily, but I think I'm learning to be pretty chill about it. Um, I go through cycles like any entrepreneur, but it's not really affecting my dieting, to be honest. Um, it could affect my mood, but it's not really affecting my relationship with food. Like, it's not like I go home and I'm like, oh, fuck it, I'll just have a burger. Like, as a matter of fact, I think that hanging on to this process is what's helping me cope with my other shortcomings in life. And I know that this I'm good at, and I can like get crazy results in the next few weeks, next few months. So I am fighting with if that's a healthy way to go about things, but personally, that's how I cope right now. So fitness can be good for that. There might be places in your life where everything's not perfect, but honestly, I would say like try to get these things better. So I'm not saying to dismiss your priorities and just focus on your fitness because big muscles are not going to take you far in life. But if you are feeling inadequate in certain circumstances and you're working towards becoming better, at least if you focus on the gym, you're gonna have short-term um, gratification. You go to the gym, you have a good workout, you feel good. You lose a few pounds, you get shredded, you're sticking to your diet, you feel good. So you get that dopamine, and like that might help you with improving other things in your life because you get that momentum. So I think that's where my point's coming from. Hanging on to bodybuilding, like the dieting side, the restriction side of bodybuilding. I think this bringing me a lot of peace and control. And I think everyone who's into bodybuilding is really into the micromanaging of their lives. Obviously, we're all a bit neurotic in that sense. So this has been really helpful because I'm seeing my body change daily, rapidly, because I've gone through it so many times. I know what to do. And honestly, guys, just by the way, I'm just eating less food and moving a little more, right? Like, there's no secret. There's nothing special about the way I eat. It's actually pretty freaking simple. It's a whole lot of protein, veggies, carbs, and some good source of fats. And it's rinse, repeat, and just like be hungry. But all this to say that it's bringing me a lot of peace. Bowel movement. Let's talk about my poop. Honestly, daily. I don't even know why I'm sharing this with you guys, but yeah, I go to the bathroom once a day. If you don't, if you go to the bathroom once a week, like I would literally question my life. Like there's some decisions you're making um, that are harmful, either things you're putting in your body or you resisting going to see a professional because if you went to the bathroom once a week, it's not okay. Disclaimer: if you're the last end stages of prep, honestly, even at the end of my prep, I was still pooping at least twice, 3 times a week. But if you don't poop every day and you're on prep, that's completely normal. Approximate water consumption, 3 4 liters. Actually, dude, like I'm a personal trainer who slacks on drinking his water. Like that's like rule number one you tell your client, drink more water. Well, drink more water, Sal. So I'm actually like you see, because I'm writing this thing, I actually took my bottle with me and I carry it all around with my clients. And I'm drinking more water. So thank you, coach, for having this in your form follow up. And that's it, guys. I think that's enough. I'm gonna get better at this. These podcasts are going to get more interesting. We had a few moments, right, where I got your attention, but overall, with a little bit of editing and a whole lot of improvements and experience over time, these episodes of taking inventory can become really interesting. So, physical culture out.